Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Samantha Izundu if you are new here, and today we have a review. This palette, the moment my eyes locked, it was love, lust, whatever you can call it. But if I could describe myself in a palette, it would be this. And I think a lot of other people have had the similar reaction to me. It is just perfection. And I am so excited to try this on camera with you guys. If you are new here, I'm an Australian beauty content creator and I love talking about all kinds of makeup, but I often have an Australian perspective. So let's get into the review. So I bought this at Sephora for $114, Sephora Australia, online only. It's not in stores until September, I believe. The package is as expected, nude, very neutral, nothing too fancy, but it's still quite gorgeous. It almost looks 3D when you look at it. Today we're going to do swatches and I'm going to do 2 eye looks. So here's the palette. When I first saw this, I instantly thought of the Mario, Makeup by Mario. What's that palette called? The Ethereal Lights, something like that. That was limited edition and I really wanted that, but I never got it. So this, I almost think is actually better for light skin tones. And that's kind of why I like it, is because I don't need a lot of depth unless I want a smoky eye, in which case I wouldn't reach for this palette. Something that's everyday, very neutral, soft glam. This is just the most beautiful, perfect palette. So what's really exciting about this palette in particular is that there are 2 new formulas in this palette. I believe there was a new formula in the Yucca palette, but I don't have that. I actually don't have all the palettes. So I'm not going to be doing a review of comparing to other Natasha Denona palettes. Who did the best review was Lauren May Beauty. I will link her review down below. It goes for a whole hour. It's the most in-depth you can get. And she has all the Natasha Denona palettes and she goes through and sees if it's dupable and worth your money if it's something that you already have. So it's really interesting to view that one. So this palette is described as a cool tone color story with 15 new enchanting muted, rosy and nude shades. Alongside Natasha's iconic formulas, I Need a Nude palette debuts a brand new Wet Effect sparkling and glossy finish formula. 2 high shine metallics, 7 buttery soft mattes, 3 captivating sparkling foiled finishes, and 3 eyeshadows in the new Wet Effect formula with sparkling and glossy finishes. So SW Sparkling Wet, new formula, and then GW is Glossy Wet, new formula. So let's get into some swatches, shall we? I'm going to tell you the name of the swatch and what kind of finish it is. So the first shade here is Stone, which is a creamy matte. This is more of a mauvey grey tone with still a bit of neutral in it. Here we have Whisper, which is a metallic. This is quite pretty. This is, I would say, very neutral. It's got a little bit of pink, a little bit of purple, and a bit of silver. Next we have Ella, which is a sparkling foil. This is like a chocolate, but with a kind of a pinky shift to it. Absolutely stunning. I feel like this might be one of my favorites, even though we're only 3 shades in. Here we have Vague, which is a creamy matte. This is like your typical dusty rose. Here we have Tavatine, which is a metallic. And this is a very, I would say, softer, cool toned brown. It has more of a translucent base. It doesn't have any darkness to it. It's very light. Here we have Delilah, which is one of the new formulas of the Sparkling Wet. Isn't this stunning? It's almost like a gunmetal, but it's still got quite a neutral warm base with that iciness at the top. Here we have Silhouette, a creamy matte. This is a purple based, I don't want to say brown, but it's like a murky plum. And this is the darkest matte in the palette. Here we have Muse, which is a special foil. Gosh, that's insane. When I was swatching this felt a little bit thicker and more fragile, like it has potential to crumble. So this one is a lot more delicate in the pan, but a very special kind of pinky silver gold, very neutral kind of pinky shade. Here we have Fair, which is a creamy matte. This is the lightest shade in the palette, and it is a very soft peachy baby pink. Filigree, which is a special foil again. We have quite a few special foils. This is a chocolate brown, I would say, with a hint of plum, a very slight hint of plum. I would say maybe the shimmer has a purple aspect, but it is quite a chocolate brown base. Next we have Wit, which is a creamy matte. I would say this is like a warm peachy pink, which I think is going to pair beautifully with the other mattes. This is Sheen, which is a glossy wet new formula in a beautiful champagne pink. This definitely has a warmth, like a yellow champagniness to it. That's how I would describe this. If champagne were an eyeshadow, Sheen would be it. This is Tender, which is another creamy matte. And this is probably the most grey of all the creamy mattes, but it still has that mauvey aspect to it. Mesh is another creamy matte. This one is quite similar to the first creamy matte we swatched, Stone, but this one has more pink and the Stone had more mauve. So that is the difference between those two, but still very similar matte shades. And lastly we have Mia, which is a sparkling wet new formula, and this is an icy pink, icy baby pink. I see white glitter particles in this, and this is going to give you a cool toned finish. Okay, so that completes the swatches. Let's get into our first eye look. I think with the first eye look, I'm going to use the primer. I'm going to be using the NYX Ultimate Shadow Primer. I think it's a good product and I find it very reliable. So we're gonna go in with this eye only with a primer. So for this side, I think because we have the primer, I want to see how it works with the deeper tones. So I'm going to do a darker eye on this side and then a more wearable eye on this side. I think I'm going to start with Stone here, the first shade, and that's going to be my base eyeshadow. And I think we'll also do one of the new formulas, one on each eye. So a glossy wet on one side and a sparkling wet on the other side. I think that'd be a great way to see that new formula. That is so exciting. So on this side with this Stone creamy matte, this is the more mauvey creamy matte, and on the other side I'll probably use Mesh, which is the more pinky creamy matte. So right off the bat I'm finding it hard to blend here. I just don't think Natasha Denona's creamy matte formula does well with shadow primers. I think they very much need nothing underneath to be able to blend because it is creamy. It's not that dry, and I think a lot of shadow primers need that dry aspect to a shadow, which Natasha's formula just doesn't have. So I think that's the best I'm going to get in terms of building the eyeshadow. Next I want to go in with Tender, which is just that little bit darker than Stone, to just build that up. And that's building really nicely. I might drag this under my eye. And then I'm going to go in with the darkest shade, Silhouette, the creamy matte. I wish I could use all these shades. I wish I had 4 eyes. And I'm going to place it just here because I do want to use a few shimmers. I love the matte to shimmer ratio on this palette because for me, I love lots of shimmer options. And I'd be happy to forego a few matte options to keep that option of having more shimmers. Personally, I know some people didn't like it, but I loved it. I'm just blending that out with the brush I had before. With a flatter brush, I'm going to get the Filigree, which is a special foil brown. It's so creamy, and I'm going to place that from the middle to the outer corner of my eye. Oh, I love that. Wow, even just that on the whole lid would be spectacular. I've just brushed off what was on that brush. I'm gonna flip it and I'm gonna go in with Delilah, which is a sparkling wet formula. I'm gonna do that on the inner part, the inner half, I should say. So this is one of the new formulas here, Delilah. Wowie, that's insane. I just need to take a breath. With my ring finger, I'm gonna take a Mia because I want this eye to be more cool toned. And this is also a sparkling wet formula. And I'm going to kind of tap that over the whole lid. I will get a small little brush and get a little bit more of Mia and do that in my inner corner. I'm using whatever was excess on this angle brush that I used the darker shade silhouette with. I'm just going to drag the excess of that under my eye. So here we have look number 1 with mascara only. I've not used any eyeliner, just so we can really have the eyeshadow as the showcase. Okay, let's go with look number 2. I'm going to use the Creamy Matte Mesh. And this looks going to be more of a warm pinky kind of look. A little bit more simple. But I'm going to brush that over my whole lid. Oh, I really like that. That is a beautiful base color. And remember, this eye has no eyeshadow primer. And I've got to say that blended so much easier without eyeshadow primer. The issue with that though is, for people like me included, I get oily, creasy lids through the day. So an eyeshadow primer really does help. I mean, the look turned out beautiful with the eyeshadow primer, but it was a lot stiffer to blend out. Then we're going to go in with Vague, which is the more pinky mid-tone, creamy matte. And I'm just placing that on the outer part of my lid so that this inner part still stays nice and light for shimmer. I'm going to drag the excess under my eye. I do this because I don't like too much under my eye. It doesn't suit me. So I just do whatever is left on the brush under my eye. I'm just adding a little bit more just to get some more depth because I don't want to do a darker color. I want this to be it. That's great. I think I want to use Whisper, which is a metallic. That was really pretty. And same idea. I'm going to do that kind of, oh gosh, that's pretty. Kind of on the outer part and the middle. These metallics still feel quite creamy. And then I'm going to get that in the first brush I had just to blend that all together. I'm going to brush that off. I'm just using a face halo. And then we're going to go in with the Glossy Wet. Yes, Glossy Wet. I'm trying to remember the names. Sheen here. Do I just use my finger? I think I might. I think it'll pick up well that way. And I kind of want to put that over the whole lid. I gotta say, these shadows layer really well on top of one another. So if you want to do multiple, like how many shimmers did I use there? And they all, you can see the dimension and the layers there. So I'm really impressed with that aspect. I think that shows high quality when you can literally do whatever you want with an eyeshadow palette and not have any limitations. Is there anything else? I did want to keep this kind of simple. I really wanted to showcase those new formulas. I mean, Muse looks like it's going to be a show-stopping shade. Maybe I'll do a little bit of that in the middle. Yeah, they just layer upon one another. Yeah, let's do that. Oh my God. See how this is such a simple look, but it still looks so incredibly luxurious and lush. Oh my God. Okay, let me put some mascara on. And here we have the second look. I still love it so much. It's still got dimension with different shimmers and finishes. So let's talk about my thoughts on the palette. In terms of the actual packaging, I do have one quarrel because I will throw this out. I don't like to keep packaging, and that's where it tells you the finishes like creamy mattes and all the special finishes. The actual palette tells you the name, but I wish it did say CM GW on the palette. That would really help me to tell you guys in the future as well. I mean, I can kind of remember the special finishes at the top of my head, that there were 3. But there's so many different names. It would have been nice to just have that CM here and that GW here. Just that little thing would have been great, because I am going to throw this out. That's my only quarrel with the actual packaging. Otherwise, it's fantastic. You can pop the shades out at the back if you wish to. I would never do that, in the fear that I misplace. I could never. But I know a lot of people like to do that. In total, I used 11 of the 15 shades, which is not too bad. Like I said before, I think it was a little bit harder to work with an eyeshadow primer, just because these creamy mattes need that, they don't like that dry base, so, or that sticky base. So that's the only thing that I would say. However, it still performed and provided a beautiful, beautiful look. I think because I went over the top with so many shimmers, I think if you did just a matte look, you would struggle with the eyeshadow primer. But also, I mean, you're not buying this palette for just the matte. So overall, absolutely wonderful performance, as expected. I didn't think it would be bad. I actually love the variety of finishes. The metallics are not boring metallics. Sometimes metallics can be a bit, you can live without. These are very special metallics. Like the feel of them, the texture, and how it actually appears on the eye is quite stunning. The special finishes I thought were beautiful. Specifically Delilah, that is delightful. Yeah, I'm excited to play with this more. I'll definitely use this in a get ready with me coming up, because how could I not use this, you know what I mean? Actually, maybe I'll use it in my live on Tuesday that I'm doing. So if you're watching this as I've uploaded it, I will be doing a live on Tuesday, so make sure you tune in for that. That is my review of the Natasha Denona palette. I love it. I'm very happy and grateful to be able to own this palette. I know it's very expensive and it is an investment, but if you are on the fence and you just need that little bit of push, it is a beautiful palette. Natasha Denona is my favorite formula in eyeshadow. Like, there is no competition in my opinion. And she's outdone herself with this palette. Absolutely stunning. 10 out of 10, other than my little criticism of the shade finishes. Thank you, Natasha. I appreciate you. Love your work. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Remember to please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.